they were debating whether or not they wanted to send a team up to the top of El Cap and descend down to him versus dangling the guy down from a helicopter to extract him off the wall with a gust of wind that could run him into the face of El Cap. They called me and said, how long do we have to be able to reattach his thumb? And I said,
If you've watched this channel at all, you probably know that my favorite thing is talking to PAs and NPs who are out there doing cool and amazing jobs. And today's interview is no exception. The PA that I'm going to be talking to today worked and lived in Yosemite National Park. He's going to tell us what it was like working in the clinic, what kind of cases they saw, some of the search and rescue things that they did, and how he was able to find this job. So stay tuned to hear this incredible adventure that this PA took.
I'm Brian Burt. I have been a physician assistant going on 20 years now, 20-year anniversary coming up.
You actually worked at Yosemite National Park, right? Within the park boundaries or right outside of it?
Correct. Yeah, the clinic it's the novel clinic. It's the only one of its kind. It is situated in Yosemite Valley, right in the heart of Yosemite Valley. 4,000-foot walls towering above you on each side. The Awani Hotel right down the street. There is a medical clinic. It's an old hospital back in the day, but that it's there to serve the tourists. 4 million, probably closer to 4.5 million, if not more now. There's a large amount of employees, both Park Service employees and the concessions companies that live there. And so they needed medical care. They've had this clinic there since the park was opened, essentially. The Park Service went to contracting the care out. But in the end, they asked the Public Health Service to staff the park. And that was in 2011, and it runs that way now.
Okay.
Still.
All right. So everyone that works there is staffed through the Public Health Service?
No, at least the model when I left, and I believe it's still in fact today, is there is a physician and an advanced practice provider plus 2 nurses. The other staff of the registration folks and the support staff were civilians.
So you said there's only 2 providers, though, that are staffing that clinic at all times?
Correct. Now, we did get creative. We started a wilderness medicine rotation for family practice physicians at an Ellis Air Force Base. They were very helpful and really expanded our capability there in the busy summer months.
So you actually do like occupational medicine for the employees that are there as well?
We do. Yeah.
And I assume that most of what you're seeing for the patients, the general public coming through, most of the patients you're getting are kind of like urgent care type things?
Crazy variety. Urgent care really was, I would say, if you had to pick one predominant type of patients, it would be the urgent care types. The simple ankle sprains, bee stings, UTIs, your run-of-the-mill urgent care.
So what are some of the other things that you did on a regular basis?
The sky is the limit. So much happened there. So much. There was so much tragedy. So many deaths, mostly traumatic. Yeah, but certainly some medical. It's a bucket list place for people. So there's a lot of sick people coming there, and they get to altitude, and it could hurt them. But multi-system traumas. I mean, people get heart attacks at the park. We do thousands of stress tests every day, because all the hikes from the park are up. And so there are trail codes regularly in the summer. There are STEMIs that come walking through the door, strokes. You never knew it was around the corner. And that was very exciting to me.
Yeah, I can imagine that you do have a lot of, I'm picturing a lot of elderly people who are retired now have time to go do things like you said on their bucket list, and it's not like they've been training for this or anything. Then they just show up and they scramble out of their RV and they think they're going to go for a big hike. And then they have some health problems. Yeah, I can see that being a recipe for a disaster. So when you were talking, I was wondering, I assume there's like search and rescue and medics and people that are out there working kind of like an EMS situation, and they would bring the people to you once they found them?
Right. So we were the medical directors for the EMS system, which was run by civilians. and the Yosemite Search and Rescue, which is a world-class search and rescue operation. 200 plus major SARS a year. High-angle rescues are routine for them. And they are medically trained. We actually do some trainings for them throughout the year. We take calls from them from the field, online medical direction, offline medical direction. And so we work closely with them, which is nice because, I would get to go out on some of those incidences. The law enforcement rangers, a good percentage of them, they have this really interesting certification called Park Medic certification. And it's a combination of an EMT and a paramedic. It's like an EMT intermediate that they can run a code with an AED and an IO and EPI and just the first round ACLS drugs. They really are very good medical providers. They're very practical, and it was really an eye-opening program that they have, and that's nationwide in the Park Service.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I never knew about that. That definitely helps because there's no way just two providers would be able to handle all of the things that happen there at the park. So, like on a regular basis, I know there's no day that's regular there, but in the summer season, which I assume is your busiest season, like roughly how many patients a day would you say you saw on average?
Probably about 50, give or take.
The whole clinic or just you personally?
Well, in the summer, we're open 7 days a week, about 10 hours a day plus. And so I was there by myself pretty much. And on my days off, Dr. Groves would work. And so that would be the only way we could have days off. And I had to take my own x-rays and do all that stuff too. So it wasn't like you're just going in and seeing them and ordering some tests and ordering a splint. You're putting your own splints on, you're discharging
Wow.
your own patients.
And then during the winter time, does it, I mean, I'm sure it slows down some, but how dramatically, like what was your average patient count in the heart of the winter?
Oh, it could be as low as 10 to, as high as 40. We did a lot of our primary care for the residents in the winter time just because it was a good time to be able to do that. We encouraged that. And then, of course, we did occupational medicine all year long. First reports of injuries, and we would work with the adjusters for the concessions company and then the Department of Labor for the Park Service employees.
Definitely a busy assignment. It's not like you get several months just to kick back your heels and prepare for the
Yeah,
summertime.
yeah. When I did hear about the job, that was my vision was I'm going to be alone with my family and maybe a handful of people in the winter, and I have to hunker down and light the fire and ride it out. But it wasn't like that for the most part.
Yeah. So talking about being with your family there, and you said something about living, there in the valley. So how do you find housing, or does that come with the clinic job?
Yeah, that came with the job. It was understood that I was going to live in the house right behind the clinic. It's about 40 steps away. There's a log cabin back there. It's right along one of a trail, a hiking trail. But it has, I mean, you couldn't beat the view. My front lawn looked over Half Dome. My backyard looked over Upper Yosemite Fall, which is the tallest waterfall in North America. So it was good living.
So you're living in this cabin right behind the clinic. There's no escaping work. Sounds like you're right there, but which is nice if there's an emergency and you need to go in. But what about the rest of your like normal living? Like where did you guys go to get groceries? And you said something you have kids. Like where did the kids go to school? Where did your wife work? And if she did, where did she work?
When we moved there, I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and my wife was a PA who had just finished 8 years of oncology at Duke. There is a school in the park. It's a very, very small school. It's kindergarten through eighth, and they divide that into 3 classrooms. It ended up being very good for our family, for our kids. I thought did very well and thrived on the smaller groups, and the teachers were amazing. And then my wife really would have liked to continue to work as a PA, but in order to work at the park as a PA, you had to be, and there was only one position, and that was mine. You had to be a public health service officer. So we ended up finding a way to get her to volunteer at the park 1 day a week. And being that the two providers there were male, she agreed to start doing some women's health for the people that lived in the park. It was volunteer, but it was just important that she was staying clinical. And then that kind of fizzled out, and she started working as the liaison for basically when there would be a major event in the park, usually a missing hiker or major trauma or something. She would be the liaison between the search and rescue and the family. So the family wouldn't be talking directly to the incident commanders and things. And with her oncology background and having difficult conversations, it was a really good job for her. And then just before we left, she started doing some primary care in that place that's about an hour and 10 minutes away in Mariposa. It was tough because invariably there'd be a rock fall on the road that would be one road that would get her there, weather, either snow, so some type of condition which would prohibit the travel.
So let's get back a little bit to the clinic. What were the capabilities of the clinic? Like how major of a trauma could you handle? And then what happened when it was more than you guys could handle?
Yeah, that was a near daily occurrence. It had in that clinic full ACLS capabilities, X-ray capabilities. We would read our own films, but we did have a radiologist that we contracted with who was working from home essentially, that would overread our films, be available for consultation. He was a friend of the park. He'd been there for years before. We had a little pharmacy there that we could dispense from, like 30 days of lisinopril, the chronic meds.
So what about like labs? Like if you needed to run like a troponin if you're worried somebody might be having a heart attack?
At the time, we didn't have troponins, but we did have iStat machine that would give us an H&H and a BMP. Essentially, we could do urinalysis dip, a lot of rapid tests, rapid strep, rapid flu. And then we also had a contract with Sonora Quest where if we had labs, primary care labs, or any, for whatever reason, the send out lab for the tourists, we would be able to send them out. But obviously, timing was of essence.
So then what happened when you said that it was almost a daily occurrence? I think you meant that there was acuity above what you guys could handle. What happened in those circumstances?
It depended. Was it something that we felt could be transported by their own vehicle with the driver to the next closest hospital, the most appropriate hospital? And how could we get them there if they didn't have a way? Would it be by ground ambulance? Would our ambulance go and meet another ambulance halfway? Or would we have the one ambulance come all the way in? Or would we have to pull that big trigger and call the helicopter for $40,000?
Yeah, another layer of complexity having to think about all that. You said you guys normally work like a 10-hour a day, and I know you said that there's kind of that park EMS type system going on, but I assume that you guys must have been like on a call deal, like if they needed you, you would have to go in.
Yeah, we had online medical control 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if we had in the peak season 5 ambulances in the park, if they go out and they need medical control, they would call us. We had a direct line, 911 line in the back door of the clinic. So if after hours somebody thought the clinic was open, it wasn't, they would call. The medics, the dorms were right behind the clinic as well. So sometimes they would call me and I would say, have them meet me at the clinic at 8 in the morning. And I'll take care of X, Y, and Z. Sometimes I could say, let me just run down to the ambulance and take a look. And other times I wouldn't even be in the park.
Yeah, that was going to be a question I was thinking. Well, could you ever leave the park? Could you ever go on vacation?
We took our vacations in the winter time because that's when there were two providers in the clinic. Certainly in the summer, if one of us wanted to take a vacation, we would do a 7 day in a row shift, but we would have the residents to help. And we would I started a PA student rotation there as well. And so we'd have PA students from various programs. That's the rotation we get right there.
I would say that's cool. Does that still exist?
I'm pretty sure at least one of the programs. I had people coming from my program, but mostly from the program in North Carolina, which we had a very good relationship with.
So was it, I mean, imagine that it was probably a pretty coveted assignment. Do you know, like, was there a ton of applicants for it?
There are only about 150 to 200 PAs, at least at the time, in the public health service.
Oh, that's true.
Pool wasn't that great to start with, wasn't that large, but I was fortunate that I had the experience as a previous paramedic, the first responders, the stuff, and I had also been moonlighting in urgent care in North Carolina as well. So I had the skill
Yeah.
set they needed. I was flexible in the fact that I could move my family out there. But people can become aware of a job like that and get commissioned in the U.S. Public Health Service, and then take that and then be uh, assigned to that job if
Yeah.
they know how to do it and they do it the right way and they have the skill sets.
In the public health service, are there, like you talked before about going to the Florida Keys of the Coast Guard, and I was like, sign me up. That's definitely one I would go to. Are there several jobs like that that you think are just really cool and unique opportunities that are available through the public health service?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, you've mentioned a good majority of them. Your NOAA PA that's going to be coming on your channel soon. I'm looking forward to that one because I did a brief 2 week assignment with NOAA and it was wonderful. Those assignments are really amazing for the right people. Commander Lafleur with the FDA, had an amazing with the career with the device regulation. There, the NIH, we have PAs at the NIH doing amazing things. And these opportunities come up more than you think. With the Indian Health Service right now, where I currently work, we have PAs in Alaska, in Nome, and places where you really are taking dog sleds out, and just doing some really cool assignments. The deployments that you do, Hurricane Katrina, Monrovia, Liberia. To answer your question, there's some amazing assignments with the Public Health
Yeah.
Service.
Are there any other national parks that have a clinic like this that you're aware of in the US that's run by the PHS?
This is the only clinic run by the PHS with the National Park Service. There are other clinics that I am aware of that existed when I was with the Park Service. Where there was a clinic in Yellowstone. I think they actually have two locations, and then a clinic at the Grand Canyon. Those clinics are run by private contractors.
So, what were some of your favorite memories or stories about working there at Yosemite?
Yeah, so I would say my the favorite memories from a clinical standpoint in Yosemite have to be just the huge variety of complaints and presentations that I saw. Unique because of their country of origin. It was an international medical clinic for a good part of the year, which was interesting to see. Kind of they can compare their healthcare to our healthcare, to the major stars, the search and rescue operations, hiking antivenom up the trail for a rattlesnake envenomation when they couldn't get a helicopter, and we had some neurologic symptoms developing, to flying out into the wilderness to do a hematoma block on a radius fracture so they could hike out, to air search and rescue, to the multi-system traumas, to there's just so much, and being able to develop unique treatment plans that involved evacuation, follow up. Could they fly back to Europe, with the fracture? Do they need to be anticoagulated if they do? I made a lot of friends in the ortho community locally. I could call, or a couple orthopedic surgeons I could call, or a couple neurosurgeons I could call. They would come out and do trainings for us.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I definitely get to use all of your like flex all of your clinical muscles and learn new skills, I'm sure, along the way.
I would say it did take a toll. Vast majority of people come to Yosemite and have a wonderful time. They do, they see one of the most beautiful places on earth, and they experience it in different ways. But the tragedy was all around. There were 30, 40, 50 deaths a year. Most of them were tragic, traumatic, multiple. There was a physician PA partner that went over a waterfall. There were three people from a church that went over a waterfall. There was a tree that fell on a boy and his friend, and what made up for that though were the successful rescues.
What kind of like personal memories, like you and your family, like what kind of great things did you guys get to do while you were there?
We got to take some nice family overnight backpacking trips to some crazy off-trail places. We got to do some mostly off-trail hiking that Ansel Adams and John Muir would places that they would go and take pictures from, and just be able to really get close to the park and the people that were part of the park, and just nature. It was very unique.
So let's talk about the whole thing where you talked about going on search and rescue or hiking up any venom up a trail. So how often roughly did you get to do things like that? And would you just leave the clinic, or would you do those things on your off days? How did that work?
It would be on my off time. I kind of searched it out because that's my personality.
Do you have any cool stories or your favorite memory of doing that one time?
There are a couple that stand out. The one was in my early days there. We had a Austrian climber that was climbing the face of El Cap, 2,000 feet up in the air, and he fell, and his rope ladder that he was on got caught up in his thumb, and or his thumb got caught up in the rope ladder, and it severed his thumb. It took his thumb
Oh,
off. It was in the afternoon, and he was stuck up there, and so our illustrious search and rescue team gathered their heads together to figure out what they could do. And they called me and said, "How long do we have to be able to reattach his thumb?" Because they were debating whether or not they wanted to send a team up to the top of El Cap and descend down to him versus dangling the guy down from a helicopter to go extract him off of the wall with a gust of wind that could run him into the face of El Cap. And I said, hang on a second. And I called my orthopedic friend and I gave them their answer. And they're like, okay, so either he loses his thumb or we go try to extract him. And so they went and threw a beanbag attached to a rope down to him. And they missed a few times. They had one beanbag left. They threw it, and in dramatic fashion, his partner caught it. They got him off the mountain, no wind gusts, down into the El Cap Meadow. And then I coordinated how, because the local trauma center in Modesto wasn't going to be able to reattach his thumb. And there's a special hospital in San Francisco, California Pacific Medical Center, I believe. And we transferred him there. He got his thumb reattached, and come to find out, he ended up being a prominent climber, part of like the head of one of the search and rescues in Austria. It was a happy ending.
I'm sitting here thinking he had to have presence of mind that he had to catch his thumb when it got to, cut off.
No,
And
you wouldn't believe it. He was the guy who got his thumb caught was above his partner. The thumb got severed and it landed on a ledge right in front of the partner. Couldn't believe it.
What are the odds of that?
I know. And the story just couldn't get any better. So I remember also when the ranger got to him on the ledge, right before the last thing he said before they got back in the helicopter was, "You have the thumb, right?"
Right. Yeah, that was the whole point of doing all this.
Yeah, it's right here. So that was a
Wow.
good one. The other memorable one was a hiker that went missing. It was in the evening the night before, and we sent a hasty team out to try to search for her at her point last seen. Couldn't find her, so we got search and rescue leaders mustered up a ground team for the next morning, and an air team as well, dogs, neighboring search and rescue places. I was scheduled, just kind of ironically, to be riding with the California Highway Patrol air operations out of Fresno. I was part of their air search for this hiker. And while we searched the area pretty well and didn't see her, and we got another call for down by Mount Whitney area for two hikers that were supposed to meet at a lake, but a snowstorm came in and they were trapped. And one of the hikers was able to call his wife. They called California Highway Patrol. That was us. We left Yosemite and went searching for this person. And we flew basically all the way down the Sierras to Mount Whitney, which was a beautiful flight. And there was this guy in the snow waving his pole at us. And so they had to land to get rid of all the weight, including me. And they went back and got him and brought him back down. And he was like, have you guys found my partner that I was supposed to meet? And they were like, no. So they looked around for his partner up there for a little while, didn't see him. His car was in the parking lot, so they knew it. He had made the hike. And so they're like, I guess you'll find him in the spring when the snow melts. And went down. He was pretty frostbitten, so he went to the hospital. We loaded back up, went to head over the mountain. We did one more quick search because the sun was going down, and the captain saw some movement in the snow, and they were like, "Hey, let's do this. Go there, check that area out." There was his partner. He had gotten caught in a little avalanche, and so he couldn't get out. They found the partner. Like he would have been left to die, and
Wow.
he was barely moving, and they rescued him in heroic fashion, saved his life, and he was fine. He is so lucky. It was this pilot's last year of doing this, and she said it was one of the more memorable ones too. It was amazing.
Yeah,
It gives
I
me
mean, what are the
chills.
odds? Just a quick little flutter of movement that you're seeing from a moving helicopter, somebody buried in
He
snow.
was
Yeah,
barely moving. Yeah.
amazing. So I was thinking too, what about like, were there bear attacks and things like that that you had to treat when you were in the clinic?
No,
No.
bears in Yosemite are very well managed. They keep them away from people as much as they can. And I don't believe that in the history of the park there's ever been a death from a bear
Ah,
in Yosemite. People ask me about that a lot, and they think that there's mountain lion attacks. No mountain lion attacks. The animal that caused the most death in Yosemite when I was there was the deer mice,
oh,
because we had a hantavirus outbreak when I was there that killed
yeah.
a number of people. Biggest animal complaint we got at the clinic was undoubtedly squirrels, because the squirrels would come up to them and they would hold their hands out like they were going to give it something, and they would bite their fingers.
Any last things you want to share about, working for the public health service or working in an unusual job kind of like this?
Yeah, I would say if you're the kind of person who's looking for an adventure, there are plenty of opportunities as a PA or any medical provider to accomplish that. Whether it's out backcountry, whether it's special events, whether it's wildfire medical support, whatever it is, seek it out. Find shows like this that help people find opportunities, and just if they need a certain skill set, work your way to it. As far as the public health service goes, I can't imagine a better career and a better retirement, really, than I've had, and that anybody can have if you qualify. And I'd be happy to talk to anybody offline too if they have any interest in becoming a public health service officer.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for sharing and for telling people about this amazing opportunity.
Well, thanks for listening.
Wow, what an amazing career. I can't even imagine what it would be like to live in a national park and the adventures that they got to have. If you like hearing about these cool and unusual jobs, I have a whole playlist on my main channel page dedicated to them. It's called Cool and Unusual Jobs Playlist, and I'll have the link to that down below in the description box. Check them out and see if maybe it's an opportunity that's right for you. Thanks for joining me today. Take care, stay sane, and I'll see you next time on the Medicine Couch. Bye.